So I recently got a bunch of people across 3 different social media platforms to send me in their anime hot takes, and this is me going to be reading them out and giving you my opinions on whether or not I agree or disagree with them, and why. So the first one is from JaderJam14, which is Asta and the Shield Hero are some of the strongest characters in anime and will beat the big 3 in a fight. I'm not sure what the scaling for Asta or what the Shield Hero verse is. I know Bleach heavily outscales Asta, and I know so does Naruto and One Piece, so I disagree with that point, but I don't know where Shield Hero scales, so someone help me out with that. This next one is from Zero_King_X, which is My Hero Academia may not have the most fleshed out side characters, but it's better than JJK where they outshine the main character constantly. MHA is overall better than JJK in almost every way. I agree with this point actually quite a bit. I feel like JJK's main issue is that everyone outshined Itadori way too early, and he only really started showing that heavy progression when he was thrown into a fight. You could never see him be intellectually smarter than people or necessarily have a better IQ than certain characters, but once we got into the final arc with the Shinjuku Showdown, he really started to shine very quickly, and I felt like it was almost a little bit rushed. Whereas with the likes of Bakugo or those, they were constantly in a competition with Midoriya, and Midori was getting a step ahead and Bakugo was unlocking something, and it was a constant back and forth. And also, I do prefer the side characters from My Hero Academia over JJK, but there's a singular character, 1 or 2 characters in JJK that I do prefer to My Hero, being Yuta and Megumi. I really do like those a lot more than I like some of the My Hero Academia characters, just because they are my personal favorites. But I do agree that overall, majority of the side characters are better than the main characters in JJK. This is a good one. From N Bear. Instead of next parts like GT, Shippuden, etc., I would like to see a what if of some stories. I really agree with this, and I love that the new game Sparking Zero from Dragon Ball has actually touched on this point with big scenarios like if you complete certain story missions in certain ways, you can unlock a what if. For example, I recently unlocked the what if for Gohan, which is what if he kept training if he went even further once he beat Frieza, and if he became the person in place of Goku in the Goku Black arc, pretty much saying that Zamasu took over Gohan's body in the future rather than Goku's. And I would like to see a lot of this, like what if in Naruto, what if in One Piece, in Bleach, in Dragon Ball, and My Hero. I would like to see a lot of what if in these animes, just because everyone has their theories, and each theory I feel like has a little bit of merit to it, but I would like an explanation to some of those theories. This one is from Elfie? I don't know if that's an I or an L, I'm kind of blind. He's pretty much saying, Itachi is terribly characterized by the fandom. He was never a good brother and or person, and Shippuden trampled his character and made him even more misunderstood. I'm not sure if he means terribly characterized in the sense that people overhyped him, saying he's like top 3 in the verse, or if you don't like Itachi, you just misunderstood him or you didn't understand his character. I feel like you can just not like a character for the sake of not liking them, but to say they're terribly characterized is a bit of I need a bit of a deeper explanation in that. But to say he was never a good brother, there's positives and negatives. There's positives and negatives to it, because he was a good character in the sense that his motivations were right. Just the executions, I would say, are a little worse for wear. For example, he unalived the entirety of the Uchiha clan to stop the coup from overtaking, to stop the coup on Konoha, while also keeping Sasuke alive because he didn't want to unalive his little brother. Now, that makes him a good brother with intentions, but in reality, he did kind of traumatize Sasuke for near his entire life. And I understand both sides of that, where it's his intentions were there. He was looking to do something good for his brother and to almost protect him from the village while also protecting the village, because that was one of his main priorities. But at the same time, he did kind of paint himself as a villain as well as traumatize his brother for, like I said, most of his, if not all of his life. So there's a good and a bad side to it. To say Shippuden tramples his character, prior to the fourth grade Shinobi World War, I would have agreed with this. I did not like the idea of Itachi coming back at the end of the fourth grade Shinobi War. I understand they needed it for resolution with Sasuke, and they needed that to almost like just bring that closing narration. And Itachi and Sasuke versus Kabuto, I feel like was a really well done fight. I feel like him ending with Sasuke having dealt the final blow to him really impacted Sasuke's character, and if they left it at that, or even explored a bit more of the emotional distress that it caused Sasuke, I feel like Sasuke could have been a much more interesting character. Not to say he's not, but that's just my opinion. Tokyo Revengers better than Windbreaker story by far from VH. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that name. What the fuck? Like, did you just spam your keyboard with 4 letters for that? Jesus. Tokyo Revengers better than Windbreaker story UI so far. I like this for a handful of reasons, but I don't like it for the other parts. So, if you don't know, Tokyo Revengers is a story about a main character, Takemichi, in the future, who got pushed down onto a train track, and since then he developed the ability to time travel into the past. And by doing so, by shaking hands with a certain character or getting in contact with a certain character, he can go back to the past and back to the future. And every time he goes back to the past, he resolves some issue in a gang called the Tokyo Manji Gang. And when he goes back to the future, a new threat arises from the past that he couldn't have seen at that point, and he has to go back and fix that, and it's a rinse-repeat vicious cycle. Windbreaker has no powers and is just a bunch of students running hands with their school's either previous gang or the previous iteration of the school, which is what Windbreaker arc was last time I read it, or with running hands with some of the competing schools. Like, I know season 1 of Windbreaker covered this perfectly, and season 2 of Windbreaker, or season 1's end set up season 2 of Windbreaker by showing us a new school that was doing a kind of a sadistic situation with some of the students. But I think Tokyo Revengers, due to the time travel ability, has had the ability to explore more in terms of story and in terms of consequence, rather than Windbreaker, which was exploring more of a sheltered person who was forced into solitude because of how they looked, opening up to other people who were kind of like him and learned to fix themselves. And I feel like Windbreaker has better action. I'm going to say that now. In terms of anime, Windbreaker 100% has better action. Tokyo Revengers has the ability to explore a bigger plot though, because of the time travel. So I'm willing to sell Tokyo Revengers has a better story so far, but once Windbreaker finishes up, I don't know, that could be a coin toss. This one is from Connor, and it's saying Chainsaw Man is better than JJK, Demon Slayer, and My Hero. I do agree Chainsaw Man, at least as a story so far, because it hasn't concluded yet, we're still on part 2, is better than Demon Slayer. In terms of JJK, I feel like the beginning parts of JJK beat out Chainsaw Man's beginning parts, but the latter half of JJK loses to Chainsaw Man just because Chainsaw Man Part 2 is fucking phenomenal right now, and you should read that if you aren't already. As for My Hero, I think that's a neck and neck decision because Chainsaw Man has had an amazing story progression. It went from a manga that was really good to something that not a lot of people agreed with, to then going back to something that was really good and exploring that further. And I feel like it portrays Denji's emotional mindset more accurately to how a human would react than some of these other anime with superpowers. My Hero, though, had just such a generational run for what it was. A lot of people can hate on the ending for My Hero. A lot of people can hate on the ending for XYZ. But My Hero Academia had 10 years of just every single chapter gripping its fucking audience. Even when people didn't like it, they still came back and read the next chapter because they were so invested in that story. So I wouldn't say Chainsaw Man is better than My Hero because it hasn't ended yet, but it is close to being on that generational run if it can just stick the landing. And I would say though, Chainsaw Man is on the route to becoming better than My Hero Academia. Now we're going to be going on to some of my Discord ones, which the link is in the description if you want to join and post your anime hot takes there. I will probably be reacting to some of them at some point. Obviously, it would be a bit further down the line, but I do want to react to more and sort of give my 2 cents on them. So the first one is from my mate Miko. Dragon Ball GT is better than what Super gave us, and Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta is the most interesting and unique fusion Saiyan transformation to come out of the franchise, only just barely beating out Gotenks. I don't care what anyone says. I'm okay with the idea that GT is better than Super. I feel like Super has higher highs than GT in my opinion. I feel like I'm in love with the Goku Black arc. I know people don't like this, but I love the Goku Black arc just for the absolute villain that Zamasu is in Goku Black's body. It was such a fucking, the conclusion was horrible, but it was actual spectacle to watch for me. I really like the Tournament of Power, going back to it. I feel like it had some moments that were a bit down, but its highs were much higher. And also the Battle of the Gods, again, highs were much higher. So in conclusion, I think the thing that makes Dragon Ball GT better than Super is Super's highs are cancelled out by its lows. It has some of the highest highs in the Dragon Ball series, but its lows just really bring it down. Whereas GT overall is a steady stream from beginning to end. Its highs and its lows aren't as heavily countered out as each other. So I feel like GT has a more steady stream, while Super has a bit of a weird roller coaster ride going along. As for Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, the most interesting and unique transformation, I do agree. Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta is possibly the coolest transformation I've seen in Dragon Ball. However, I wouldn't give second place to Gotenks. I feel like I would give second place to Zamasu. I understand people might prefer Gotenks, but I feel like Zamasu's design and just how, I don't know what it is about Zamasu to me, but just how cocky he acts is so fucking cool to me. And I just love a villain that acts like that, like cocky, and he can back it up. Or even if he can't back it up, if he just runs his mouth for the entire fight, I love that shit. I will ride on that shit. But Gotenks, I'm willing to settle for a third place, because I don't think there's that many transformations outside of like Vegito and stuff like that. This next one is from Adjust, which is Kingdom would be one of the most popular animes if its first few seasons didn't look like a 3DS game. So I haven't read Kingdom, I'll admit that to you now, but what I have heard is Kingdom is in the top 3 mangas of all time, and I feel like off of hearing that, Kingdom has gotten the same treatment as Berserk in a sense, where Berserk's main problem was that its manga was phenomenal. But by God, did that anime not live up to it. And I feel like Kingdom would fall under the same hill as this, where the anime cannot compare to the manga just because the manga has so much more to do, less to do, and the anime has to incorporate all of that and more into it while also looking phenomenal. And I feel like Kingdom, off of just a quick read, might have not been able to live up to that hype. The anime might not have been able to live up to the hype of the manga, just like with Tokyo Ghoul, just like with Berserk, just like with so many other of these animes. Promised Neverland being a fucking another one. I am so sad that did not turn out well. But to say it's one of the most popular animes, if it lived up to the hype of the manga, I could see it. I could see that. But we'll never know, because I don't think anyone's ever going to try and reanimate that. And as always, that was the anime hot takes. I agree with some of them, I disagree with others. But send me in your anime hot takes either into the comments of this video, in my Discord, or on my TikTok, because I do kind of look for you guys' input on this so I can break down and either try and get into your guys' mindset or not. Also, I have a channel in my Discord where you can send me anime to recommendations to watch or react to, because I do want to start doing reaction content to this stuff. I feel like that is one of the main routes people with anime content can go down. Unless you're cosplaying, and I hate to break to you, unless I'm cosplaying Big Mom or Gragas, I ain't going to be able to do that shit. But yeah, so let me know what you think, and as always, leave me alone.